This is the Bod Pod, the podcast where we welcome friends and experts to talk all things body image, self-love, and confidence. This is the Bod Pod.
We talk about confidence all the time, but what exactly does it mean to be body confident? Hey, Bodcon, I'm Rachel K. Graham, your resident hype girl, confidence coach, and host of the Bod Pod. I'm coming at you live to chat all things confidence, how we find it, keep it, and grow it. And today I am chatting with Lee. Lee is a women's health and sex ed creator with 2 million followers on TikTok. It's obvious, Lee, that your comical and informational videos are exactly what we need when it comes to talking all things women's health and sex. So let's get right into the convo.
Yeah, I love your intro. Wow.
I think that your videos exude confidence and, like I said, humor, but in a way that is still so like tasteful, that makes you feel seen, but still feminine. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm really excited to have you here.
I like that you said that because I don't think of it like that because it is sex.
Yeah.
A lot of people do not feel comfortable with that.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that you're like, you make it funny, you make it comfortable, you make it relatable. That's amazing.
That's why I wanted to have you here to talk about this, because I think so many women think that sex is something that not only we need to feel more comfortable talking about, but we want to feel more comfortable talking about, and we don't know how to. And you make it feel comfortable. So I'm hoping this episode, you can help us all feel a little bit more confident when it comes to sex across the board.
I can't wait to tell you my one answer. So it's just one answer that I have for you.
Yes.
It's so simple. I can't wait to tell you.
Well, why sex? How did you get into talking about sex? How did you become a sex ed creator?
I've always liked doctors and medical, and when I was young I said I want to be this doctor, and then I started learning about beauty, and I was like, I want to be a model. And then I learned about Instagram, and I was like, okay, I'm going to become a makeup guru. And I actually did become that. I was really big on makeup, and I thought I was really going to be this big makeup artist and the makeup guru, and I was going to go to LA. Oh girl, I had dreams. It did go successful for me. I was doing makeup and skincare online, doing the tutorials. And then after that, a while later, I ended up getting pregnant with one of my biggest blessings, my daughter, Sophia. And I love her so much, but things that I wish I knew about having a baby and becoming a mother and your body changing. I wish somebody told me that, because I would have been like, girl, hold on. I am not ready for all of this. And then the pandemic happened, and everybody was like, go on TikTok. But I thought TikTok was like, the people say that it's like a kid app and who the hell is going to learn from there? So I was doing like my makeup tutorials, and I'm like, no, it's not working out. Something's not it. And I just ended up being myself. And I was like, let me just do this video on things that doctors don't tell you after you have a kid. And that video blew up. Wow. And because the kids weren't in school, they were asking like, how do I have sex but without getting pregnant? I was like, oh, wow. Wow. So it just started like all these questions that kids started asking me, not even kids, like young adults, women and men. And they were just asking me all these questions. So then I would research these questions and I would answer online. And I would do like funny facts about sex and about penises and vaginas. And I got so into it, but people thought it was weird. Because,
we make sex weird.
But then people thought it was like really good. And it's so funny because when I started posting that type of content on Instagram, it was cringe to people. Because Instagram is like a beauty. Everything's perfect. And so I got a lot of DMs from girls like, oh my God, I'm so happy you brought this up because I'm actually going through this and blah, blah, blah.
I love that young adults who maybe never had a parent or someone to teach them about sex or to really have the talk with them in a way that wasn't like awkward and silly. I feel like now you're giving people the talk.
So it's basically girls are like, you're my big sister. You're like the sister I've never had. And you're like my mom. Like, I can't talk about this with my mom. So let me talk to you about it. And I was like, okay, I'll be your mom. I'll be your sister. And then I was like, that's so funny because I know how this feels. Like, I've asked my mom about sex when I was young and I wanted her to tell me about it.
Yeah.
And I really pushed her buttons to tell me, and she never spoke to me about it. She just said, don't get pregnant. And I was like, okay, but how do I not get pregnant? Yeah. So then I started learning in high school from my friends. And the same way that I talk online was the same way I talked to my friends in high school. I remember just sitting with the boys during lunchtime, and I would listen to their stories about sex and what they would be doing to these girls.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, this is so interesting. Like the way the guys talk and the way the girls talk. My girlfriends, they were like, oh, like it feels so good, but at first it hurts. And everything was like about a boyfriend and girlfriend type of thing.
Yeah.
So I was learning from my friends.
Yeah.
But we didn't have that great of an education.
Yeah. I think a lot of people have that same experience, literally learning from friends. And half the time when kids are talking, like they don't even know what they're talking about. But what we learn because we're not hearing it from someone else. So I love that you have created a space, a comfortable space that people can come to and feel more confident when it comes to sex.
It's so funny when I think about it now in high school. I'm like, why were we having sex so young?
I know. When I think about that too, I'm like, oh my God,
what the hell I was doing back then? I'm like, why was I doing this? I had no business. Stay in school, guys. Do not have sex that early. Do not be pressured by your friends. It's not worth it.
Going off of that, how do we make the conversation of sex more fun? Whether we are talking about sex with our friends, with our partner, or maybe someone's listening who is a parent and needs to have that talk with their child. How can it be a little more fun or even just not so serious, not so icky, not so uncomfortable? Do you have any tips?
So I read a lot of books on like sex ed. And what I learned is you just have to sit down and just talk human to human. And even if the person doesn't want to hear it right now, they're going to come to you. They're going to ask you.
Yeah.
Or they're going to find it online, but it's better that they ask you. And whatever you don't know, you do your research.
Yes.
It's better that you do your research.
Yeah.
But to ask somebody, you can be like, hey, or like your kid.
Yeah.
Hey, I noticed, I know you're in this age where you're going to learn, and you're going to hear stories, but it's better you ask me.
Yes.
Than you ask your friend, because your friend is going to give you the wrong information.
Yeah. Making them feel comfortable to come to you and actually talk about it, as opposed to, as you said, being afraid to talk to a parent or knowing that your parent isn't going to give you the information if you cue it up as, no, I'll tell you.
Yeah, and it's also like your energy, the way that you're putting yourself out there and your tone of voice. Because moms, they can make it like, oh, don't do it.
Yeah.
At your kid.
Yeah.
Talk to them as if they were your friend at this point.
Yes.
Try to make them comfortable, but don't manipulate them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So going out of mom mode and going girlfriend to girlfriend mode, how do we ask for what we want? Or how do we even know what we want?
It's basically being by yourself and learning your own body. Nobody knows your body better than you know your own body. So get to basically touching yourself. And I wish somebody told me about this. I never knew. I thought it was like icky to even look at your vagina. I never looked at my vaginas. Maybe 2 years ago when I started all of this, because it's like, oh, how do I tell all these girls to do this?
It seems like we grow up and it's so normalized that men talk about sex. But then for women, it's just something that we don't talk about. The idea of, as you said, like self-pleasure, anything is so icky.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not okay. And we're made to feel like, oh, I could never admit that I do that.
Shameful. Like, that's the word.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to ask you, because what is it that makes you feel more comfortable to ask for what you want? It makes sense that the starting point is knowing what you actually want.
Knowing yourself. You have to love yourself. You have to know yourself.
Yes.
You have to know who you are. Because a lot of us, we end up having sex with a partner and they're just doing all of this to you. It could be a girl or a guy and they're just doing all these things to you and you don't even know if you like it or not.
Yeah.
You have no idea because you've never examined your own body. You've never touched your own body. You've never masturbated. So how do you know what you like, what you don't like?
So when you do, and you give yourself the permission to find out what you do like, how do you then tell your partner what it is you want in a confident way?
Yeah.
Any tips there?
Yeah, because I'm a very blunt girl. Hey, I know you're into this, but I'm into this right now. Do you think that we can try this? Just say it straightforward. Don't hesitate. I think that's what it is. Don't hesitate. Even though sometimes I hesitate. Be like, oh, I wonder what he's thinking. Like, I overthink too. But don't overthink it because they might just say yes. But don't do that. If you love me, you would do it.
Can you give us some specifics to building sexual confidence?
Like I said, the first thing is loving yourself.
Yes.
Because girl, if you don't love yourself, nobody's going to love you.
Period.
Yeah, you have to know your own body. Like, maybe don't get so ready to go into a relationship. Or a lot of girls, they don't get into relationships, but they try different things with guys.
Yeah.
Whatever works for you, do whatever works for you.
Yeah.
Whatever's working for you, keep it up. But take some time to be with yourself too.
Yeah.
It's basically learning your body. And don't feel ashamed and don't overthink it. The same way you take care of your hair, care of your skincare, makeup.
Yeah.
You do your skincare, take care of that soul of yours.
Do you have any like sex horror stories that you can share?
So I don't really have like horror stories. I would say maybe one, like I got my period during sex and the guy freaked out, which now I'm like embarrassing. Like you don't have to freak out like that.
Embarrassing for him.
Yeah.
Not embarrassing for you. Yeah. Like, again, as you said, it's your body. Like, it happens to everyone.
This like once a month. And sometimes we don't know when she's coming down. She can come down anytime. And giving me that look made me feel bad.
Wait, can we talk about intimidation with men? Is it bad to be confident? Like, do we need to lessen that? Or
insecure, girl.
There it is.
It's not a you problem. It's a their problem. It could be a him or her that you're messing with, and it might be their problem. Once you're very secured about yourself, and I recently went out to dinner with a friend, and she's like, I know why girls and guys don't like you. I'm like, why? She's like, because you're very secured with who you are, and that scares people. I can tell you a story right now about my life, and I won't be embarrassed because I'm like, that might help somebody from their past or their trauma. I'm very open to those conversations. I'm not afraid to tell you who I am. If I ever did something stupid, I'll be happy to talk about it.
My dad always says that your message, your message. Yeah. And I think like that applies to even something like this, even relationships. What happened is absolutely a learning experience. Yeah, for you, but also for your friends, for your community, whoever you're willing to share it with to be better. You're doing all of this sex ed info on social media, and you've been talking a lot about STIs, STDs, which again, I feel like is something that we just don't get enough information about growing up. And whenever I think of STDs, I think of the episode of Sex and the City where Samantha meets the man who's like the male version of her, where he's sleeping with everyone in the city. And they're like, oh, I heard about you. Oh, I heard about you. They're like talking, and he says, we can't have sex until you get checked out. Oh. And she's like, oh, it just ruined the moment, but it also made me want to be with him more. So I want to know from you, like, how do you suggest bringing up the conversation of getting tested, whether it be with someone you're seeing once or someone who's a partner that you plan to be monogamous with? How do you have that conversation?
You can't hold back on that conversation. You just have to say it. Yeah. But like, it depends also how serious you guys are. It depends on your relationship. Yeah. And if you're very open, you could be like, hey, like, when was the last time you got tested? Yeah. Like, hey, I'm about to get tested. I feel more comfortable if we get tested before we plan on going any deeper or farther with this relationship. You want to make sure that you're telling this person beforehand. And if that person is like, no, I don't feel like it, then girl, that's up to you if you still want to deal with that person. But it's a red flag. Yeah, it's a red flag. Yeah. A green flag is a guy that's, sure, I'm going to do it. I'm going to send you my results. That's a confident man right there. For younger women listening, or someone, say, in their early 20s, what do you wish past you, early 20s you knew when it came to sex? What would you say to her to help her be more sexually confident? I would have to go back to saying loving yourself, because it sounds so simple, right? When they say love yourself, but sometimes the solution is simple. Yeah, but it could also be hard when you are rushing and getting into a relationship, getting to know other people, then getting to know yourself. Yeah. Because, girl, who knows you better than you? Nobody knows you. And don't rush for sex. Yeah. Don't rush it. Trust me, sex is everywhere. You're not missing out on anything. And take care of your health. Yeah. Too, because there's a lot of things that are happening, and cervical cancer is on the rise. Yes. And a lot of us women, we're not even doing daily checkups, going to the doctors and stuff. Yeah. I saw you posted a video about like getting a pap smear and how that's so intimidating, but so important. Again, something that we just don't talk enough about, or we're not informed enough about as women. I didn't know anything about a pap smear until I got pregnant. Yeah. And I was like, they were like, oh, you have to do this test. And I'm like, what is this test?
Yeah.
And I didn't even care for the test till after I started learning more about sex ed. I'm like, oh my God, we really need to start taking this test more seriously.
Yeah.
Because it's something that you don't know that you have. A lot of people don't, it's asystematic. So a lot of people don't know they have all these things till they get tested. So if you're in your early 20s, girl, work on your health. Do not, go to the doctors. Don't rush. Like, you don't have to rush for sex. I think that this happens a lot to a lot of young girls where they end up having sex with somebody and they feel like they're getting used. They're so young and then they feel like, I got used by this guy, but really it's like you rushed into doing this. Sometimes they do get pressured, so I know the situation. But that's why I say don't rush into having sex. At 16, I don't know why I decided to have sex at that young age. And that kind of messed me up myself because that was all I learned throughout a relationship was just having sex. Gen Z right now, they're actually planning. They plan. I get
okay, Gen Z.
Yeah, I get like messages like, hey, me and my boyfriend, we're about to do it. And we saw your video. So yeah, we got tested. And I know you just say something about lube, so we're getting lube and condoms, and I'm like, oh my God.
You're making a difference. Obviously, we talk a lot about body confidence, and so we talk to a lot of women who aren't feeling the most confident in their bodies, especially being naked and then being intimate with a partner.
Oh, I get that question.
Yeah. So how do we feel more comfortable in our body when we're choosing to be intimate with a partner?
You gotta look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself you're the baddest. I wish somebody told me, girl, look at yourself in the mirror, because I used to be the girl that I was very insecure about my body and I was so skinny and I wanted the big butt, the nice thighs and the big boobs and all these things, and I didn't have it. So I was like, you know what, let's just have sex in the dark and make it easier for
That's what so many women say, yes.
Just use a blanket. But if you don't love your body, like, girl, that is going to torture your mind, like, for the rest of your life.
The hindrance that we allow our bodies to have over us from opportunity. Okay, so sure, now we're talking about sex, but what else do we let our bodies keep us from doing? Going on a vacation or wearing the clothes that we've always wanted to wear or swimming, whatever.
You can do all these surgeries and you're still not happy. You go to the gym every day and you're still not happy. So.
Yeah. Might as well live life in the body that you're in.
Yeah. Listen, not everybody's body is perfect.
Yeah.
That's why you either go to the gym, go get your surgery, whatever you think it's going to work for you.
I love the advice you gave about looking in the mirror too.
Yeah.
I know for me, when I finally embraced enough, like looking at yourself naked in the mirror, is I know you said,
so scary.
I feel like looking at yourself naked also helps you love your body more too. Yeah. You know what I mean? I love to look in the mirror and actually like physically point out, oh, I love this little angle here at my waist, and I love my big butt, and I have a bunch of little freckles here on my legs that I really like. Yeah, and physically pointing it out to myself, I feel makes me feel more empowered than in the moment.
I've watched so many self-love videos, and I can tell you maybe like last mid-year was when I actually could look at myself in the mirror eye to eye and be like, okay, Tiana. Yeah, because that's my first name. I'll be like, Tiana Lee, like, I love you. Like, but it took me such a long time because it's a scary thing to look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself, I love you.
Yeah. And I want to be clear. I didn't just start looking at myself in the mirror and pointing out all those things I like. That took a long time to get there. And I think it's a process for everyone. But like you said, look in the mirror slowly but surely. Start to like yourself.
Looking at little things. And what I like is when other people tell you like, oh, I love your eyes. I love your eyebrows. I love this. And you're like, really? And then you start looking at yourself and then you can like be like, oh, yes, I have beautiful eyebrows. I have beautiful hair. When I was young, I was very skinny. I was a very skinny girl. Like I went through a lot of doctors because they thought that there was something wrong with me. Yeah, this is something that I never talked about, but I'll talk about it here. Where I was probably like 11 years old and 80 pounds. Like, I never went past 100 till I was like 20 something.
Wow.
22. That's when I hit like the 100 mark.
Yeah.
But I was always like very underweight, and the doctors just saw that there was something wrong with me. Yeah. I did tests, like multiple tests, going to the doctors. There was a point in my life where I kept going to the doctors because they thought I was like bulimic or I was just doing things. And I was like, no, like this is my body.
Yeah.
So that's why I also hated my body. Like, I was so skinny. Yeah. And then I had big lips. And my family members too, they'd be like, oh my God, like you're such a skinny girl with big lips. And big lips was like an ugly thing back then, and now big lips are like the beautiful.
Yes.
And now when people ask me, are those your real lips? And I'm like, yes.
And I'm proud.
Yeah, but it took me a long time to love my lips.
Yes. That hits on like our bodies being a trend too. Okay, now it's cool to have big lips. But even though our bodies are not trends, we don't need our bodies to fit into trends. I feel like a trend like that helps you learn to love what you've been given. I feel that way. I was always, which now I say it, I'm like, oh, that's silly because I love my butt. But I always had a bubble butt growing up, and which is now like people pay for that. But I like, kids made fun of me when I was in high school for that. And so it was something I was self-conscious. I know, but now it's a trend. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, this is a nice booty. Yeah. But it sometimes it takes that to learn that what we have is actually really beautiful.
Yeah, I actually got my boobs done.
Good for you, girl.
I got it. Like, I've always wanted boobs since I was like a young girl. And I'm like, and I would look, because my mom had big boobs, my sister had big boobs. And I was like, oh, wow, like, I really need boobs now.
Yeah.
And after I had my daughter, and I breastfed and I did all the things, like my boobs grew and they were big. And then after I had her, after I stopped breastfeeding and doing all the mommy things that I was supposed to do, it went super flat. And I was like, okay.
I liked those boobs.
Yeah, I liked those boobs. And I've always wanted boobs. So okay, I'm happy I already had my daughter.
Yeah.
I did the thing, had the kid. Now let me get my boobs done.
Yes.
And I'll tell you that didn't make a big difference.
Really?
Until I started loving myself, because I was like, okay, I have the boobs, like, but do I really love myself? Do I really like myself?
You said it earlier. Yeah. You can make all of the changes, but until you learn to love yourself, it doesn't matter what changes you make. Yeah. They'll never be good enough. You'll always be looking for the next.
That's why you have to do all this internal work.
Yes.
Tomorrow I might take these things out and I might want to be flat-chested.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know where my brain is going to take me.
And that's okay.
Yeah. So that's why you really have to like who you are. Yeah. I don't regret them, but in a way I'm like, I didn't really have to do it. And the other thing was like, because I was so skinny, I was like, I have nothing to show. Another thing goes back to the men, or was like, I don't have anything to show a guy.
Yeah.
So I feel, let me just also get the surgery for the male gaze too.
Yeah.
And then after I was like, oh, wow.
Was this for me or was this for him?
Yeah, was this? Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, girl, like you really need to do some deep work.
Yeah. That's such a good point. I think so much about the way that we dress, the way that we present, like how much is it for men and how much is it for ourselves. And I know I feel the most confident when I wear what I want, show up how I want. I'm the one who has to wear it, or I'm the one who is existing in my body. So ultimately it's what feels best for me.
That's so true. Nothing will make you better until you actually look at yourself in the mirror.
Like you said, the takeaway is love yourself.
It's the only answer that you can really provide for anyone.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, it's really hard loving yourself. And nobody talks about how hard it is to actually even look at yourself in the mirror. When you start loving yourself so much, people think that you're like cocky and and you're just like this bitch.
Full of yourself.
And you're full of yourself. And you're like, no, it took me a long time to
get here.
And until you get to where I am, or above me, girl, you're gonna freaking feel the 10 times better than me.
We touched on this earlier about seeming intimidating to men, and it can often even come off intimidating to women or in friendships.
Yeah.
And I think when you just embrace who you are and confidently walk in that, the type of people that you're attracting, whether it be friends, relationships of whatever kind, you attract other people who see that in you and don't see it as intimidation, but see it as, oh, I'm inspired by this. I want to feel as good too.
Yeah, I don't know who I was talking to, but somebody was telling me about jealousy. Because I used to be a jealous girl.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I wanted the other things that the other girls had. I wanted the body that the other girls had.
Yeah.
I would compare myself.
Yeah.
And then I spoke to a girl on live that I was on live with. Her name is Kay. She also does like wellness stuff. She's like, jealousy is the most beautiful thing because it just means that you're inspired by this person, but you don't know how to share your emotions because it can go back to like past trauma.
Yeah.
Like, it's like really deep about jealousy. And I'm like, wow, basically you're just inspired.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you just have to use that inspiration to propel you forward as opposed to sitting in the disappointment of not having that or not being that.
Exactly. So it goes back to doing a lot of work with yourself.
I love that you've learned so much and you so authentically share it. And I can't thank you enough for sharing everything that you have with us. Share with everyone what is upcoming next for you. Where can we find you? Where can we see all these videos that you're making? Because like I said, you're so funny, but you also just give us so much to think about. I love your content.
Oh, thank you. So you can find me on TikTok at Pretty with Lee. And you can find me on Instagram at Pretty with Lee. But also, girls, on TikTok, I do the Big Sis Hotline.
Yes.
So I go on live and I listen to every girl talk about whatever problems they have going on, their advice. I share my thoughts on it. I can be very brutal with you girls. But what I have noticed is that a lot of you girls are not loving yourself and you're like stuck in these bad relationships. And another thing is like, I've noticed a lot of girls don't have like really good friends telling them these things. And it's not even girls, it's also guys that call me.
Yeah.
And they're having relationship problems too.
Yes.
It's a really good hotline to call. So you can find it on my live. I go live mostly every day. And then I also have another page with my daughter that's called I Am Pretty with Lee. So we do like videos together. I love her. She has like her own life going on.
She's a star.
Yeah, she's a star and she just rules my life and tells me what to do. Yeah, it's scary.
Lee, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing everything that you did. I can't wait to see all that you do. And
I love you and your confidence.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. There's some good energy here.
Yeah,
so
I love it.
We'll do a big sister talk. And
I love this. Yeah. And I know that you're going to be on my Big Sis hotline soon.
Yes, we have to do it. That'll be really fun.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Yes, anytime. Well, BodCon Squad, if you like tips and resources like these, be sure to check out the BodCon app where we're having confidence boosting conversations in real time right now. You can also access all of our confidence series on the BodCon app featuring content by licensed body confidence experts, sharing stories and sharing tips that will help you take your confidence to the next level. Be sure to keep up with all things BodCon when you follow at the BodCon on Instagram, TikTok, and watch this episode on YouTube. And finally, follow this podcast and leave us a review. We wouldn't be here without you. Bye.